What's going on, everyone? So we are getting closer and closer to my speaking into existence becoming a reality. So the Charlotte Hornets are expected to kind of shop Lamelo Ball. Lamelo supposedly is open to the idea, although it is worth noting that Lamelo has said, or put an emoji, like a clown emoji or something like that, which, maybe it's not what we think. But regardless, the reports are that, hey, Charlotte may look to get off of Lamelo. Lamelo might be open and interested to do a trade. We'll see what happens there. I've talked about if they trade Lamelo, they're probably just going to go with the youth movement, right? Anybody that's under 25 that they'll probably keep, and anybody over you'll be able to probably acquire. Right? Obviously, they're not just going to give guys away. It has to make sense. It has to be a trade. But one of the guys I have been very adamant about the Lakers trying to go and acquire is Miles Bridges. Right? Miles Bridges, in my opinion, is kind of the ideal power forward, small forward combo guy, right? Like, he's what we want Rui to be. Athletic, can defend basically 1 through 5 for you. I've seen people mention but his defensive numbers aren't that great. Again, it's very different when you're on a team like Charlotte and you're basically the only defensive player out there and you're tanking for the bottom, and every year you're trying to compete for a lottery pick rather than an NBA championship. Miles Bridges is much more known as a defensive player than a PJ Washington was. Look what happened with PJ Washington when he went to Dallas, right? Because the expectations are different. Like, what I need from you is much different than on a team like Charlotte, right? And not just that, Miles Bridges won't be as responsible to score the basketball and self-create and do all those other things. So you'd have more energy. He'd be able to put more effort into the defensive side of the ball. Where right now, the guy go get you 40, but he has to do everything. He has to self-create. He has to create for others. He has to do a lot because LaMelo Ball can't play more than 30 games, right? So, him on a team like the Lakers, I just think he'd really thrive because he's a guy that can self-create, right? And on any given night can go off and be, the second best player on the court that night, right? But he's also a guy that can play off ball and play within the schemes, as we've seen in Charlotte, playing alongside such a high usage guy like a LaMelo, right? Slotting alongside a Luka, LeBron, and Austin Reeves, the quality of life, the quality of looks, everything would just be so much better for Miles Bridges. So I think his numbers would go up. I think his his efficiencies would go up. I just think he's a guy that would really thrive and benefit. But more than anything, he's a long-term answer. You can go get an Andrew Wiggins or something like that, sure. But the problem with that is that's more of a short-term answer, right? You got this year and maybe next year, and then after that, you're trying to find that other guy again. Where if you were able to get a Miles Bridges, he's young enough and fits that Luka, Reeves, Ayton timeline to where now you got a guy who also can play either forward spot. That's the beauty, right? That's why I mentioned he's kind of what we want Rui to be. Right, Rui's best at the 4, but he plays a lot of 3 because of LeBron and stuff like that, but he doesn't have the athleticism and the foot speed and whatnot to defend out on the perimeter, where Miles Bridges does, right? So Miles Bridges is a guy that can slot in at the 3, and then let's say, in a post-LeBron era, let's say a Dude Theroux emerges as that guy, or Jake LaRavia, who he's more of a 3 than a 4, even the numbers back it up, right? If Jake LaRavia emerges as that guy, well then perfect. You can just slide Miles Bridges to the 4 and not skip a beat because he's shown the ability to play at a high level at the 3 or the 4 for you. So he's a guy that, if that 3 comes along to where it's okay, this is the guy that we're going to have as our foundation piece at the 3, well then now you have Miles Bridges, who you can just, again, slot down into that spot at the 4, and again, not skip a beat. So to me, Miles Bridges gives you the flexibility, gives you the athleticism, he gives you the timeline as far as a long-term kind of foundation piece. And now you have something like a Luka, Reeves, with a Bridges and then DeAndre Ayton, along with a Jake LaRavia, Dude Theroux, Bronny James, right, so on and so forth, that can be, again, kind of your continued foundation pieces. And then you go find that 4 or that 3 or something like that. And again, you have that flexibility with Bridges that you can trust. Okay, well, we got a guy that can slot into either spot for us. So we don't have to worry about there's a redundancy now at the 3. You don't have that Rui situation where Rui really needs to play the 4, but you have LeBron. And LeBron at this stage of his career is best at the 4 because he can kind of take plays off and kind of monitor and manage his team rather than being on the strong side of the offense and the defense to where he has to work as hard and navigate screens and do all that stuff. But also Bridges, again, gives you that guy that, much like Andrew Wiggins, right? One of the things about Andrew Wiggins that's great is that he can self-create. Right? He's a guy that isn't reliant on a Luka, Reeves, or LeBron to set him up, right? He's not just, he can stand in the corner, be ready, and then just catch and shoot and allow those 3 to create for him, but he's also a guy that you can run your offense through. He can make plays for himself. He can make plays for others. He can shoot over the top. He can score the basketball, right? I mean, again, this is a guy that's dropped 40 pieces on several occasions. So this just gives you another guy that gives you the ability to just do multiple things out there on the basketball court. So, it's just really like him fully buying in and embracing the defensive side of the ball, which I fully think he will, right? Like, He's a good defender. He's not great. He's not anything like that on Charlotte. But again, context is important, right? PJ Washington was a well below, average defensive player. And then again, went to Dallas and became their defensive anchor in a lot of ways, right? I mean, he was excellent and still has been for them as far as the defense side of the ball because he's committed to it. He knows like, hey, I need to buy into what they're selling because we're trying to win here, right? Obviously this year Dallas has been terrible, but in their finals run and stuff like that. So bringing in kind of that Miles Bridges is an even better option than, say, a PJ Washington or something like that. There's talks about like a PJ and a Daniel Gafford and, maybe doing business with Dallas again. And I've seen people be like, oh, Dallas wouldn't do business with the Lakers. Again, if Lakers have the best trade package and the best offer, business doesn't have emotions. Business doesn't hold grudges. Same thing with Charlotte, right? I've seen a lot of people be like, Charlotte isn't going to do business with the Lakers again. Of course they will, right? Like if every team that people said would never do business with the Lakers would never be able to get a trade done ever. No one would ever trade with the Lakers. The Lakers would just be stuck with draft and free agency. And that would be that. Every year people go, this team would never trade with them or that team would never trade with them. And then they end up pulling off a trade or get something done, right? Again, if the Lakers have the best package for Miles Bridges, and that's the key though, right? Lakers have to have the best package for Miles Bridges. Miles Bridges is probably going to be, a sought after piece. There's a lot of teams that would probably do well with the Miles Bridges. So if he becomes available, there will be competition. Maybe Miles Bridges kind of nudge things a little bit to kind of help him, right? That's a real possibility. Again, there's options there, but we'll see kind of how all of that plays out for the Lakers. But, if Lakers have the best package, if they have the best trade assets, if they have the things necessary to get that deal done, then why wouldn't Charlotte do it? Especially if this is the trade that really kind of helps them, move the needle in the way that they want to, right? Like if this helps them go and find kind of the salary space or whatever, right? We don't know what Charlotte's plan is if they decide to trade Lamelo and so on and so forth, right? So it's all going to be predicated on that. But to me, again, it's about, can you find a way to get Bridges? And if you could get like a Josh Green in the process or something like that too, that would be huge as well, right? Can you go get another 6'6" versatile kind of, like I've talked about, Lakers really need kind of that true starting level guy. They need that clear, like, hey, this is your starting level 3. And then go get that kind of second tier guy. I've talked about, can you get an Andrew Wiggins and a Keon Ellis, right? Can you do something like that? Because then that would give you the pieces to really kind of, now I think they're a top contender, right? Now, again, if you can solve that in one trade, if you can solve that in one move, go get a Miles Bridges and go get like a Josh Green or a Trey Mann or something like that. Now you're cooking and you're in business, right? And we were able to get Nick Smith Jr. from Charlotte too, so it just further adds to it. But to kind of go over the potential of like what he brings this season, he's averaging 22.3 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, shooting 42.3% from the field. You look at his last 10 games, he's shooting 36% for three-pointers. He's shooting 44% at home, which is very impressive. But on the season, he's roughly 36% from three-point range. Again, grabbing 7 rebounds, 4 assists, a block, and a steal per game at 22.3 points per game. So again, he's a guy that I do think his production, his percentages, all of that, I do think will go up. I do think he's a guy, because again, it's very different when you're playing alongside a Luka, LeBron, and Austin Reeves and a Lamelo, and then Lamelo's out for a month, and now you got like, Brandon Miller and guys like that making plays for you, right? So I do think that Bridges is a guy that can bring you the volume, bring you the shooting, bring you the things you need. Because, I mean, even if you look at his volume, right, he's averaging 17.7 field goal attempts per game, which I don't think he'll give you that. I don't think he'll be a 20-point-a-game scorer on the Lakers. But, on 9 attempts, so more than half of his attempts are coming from three-point range. He's shooting 36.3%. I think that goes up to at least 38%. I don't think it's crazy to potentially throw out there, right? I do think that is something that could happen, right? Because again, you're slotting alongside Luka, LeBron, and Austin Reeves. The quality of looks that you'd get. Okay, so like, what are the options? Like, it's Bridges, right? Andrew Wiggins, and Herb Jones are kind of like the three most likely available kind of high-end guys. I would personally take Bridges overall. Herb Jones, I would love to. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to sleep on Herb Jones. But Miles Bridges, I just think if he can commit to the defensive side to the level in which I believe he can, he gives you everything else. He gives you all the things that you want from Herb Jones, as well as all the things from an Andrew Wiggins. But he's bigger than both and can slot in wherever you need. So that's kind of my idea. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. I pass the question to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos. Truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.